Good morning. I am higher vibrations, and so are you. There has been so much energy shifting around. There's been technology issues. There's been time slippage. There's been all kinds of increased ascension symptoms that I know I've been having and a lot of other people. I just wanted to bring this up before we go into our lovely new guest. Um, is that there has been so much increase in the experience of feeling the grief, this ancient sadness that's being wept from the land is being channeled and moved through the conduits that you all are. If you're watching this, you're one of us. And as these powerful empaths, we are a funnel, a tube, a conduit for this energy to find a place in and out of this space. And so if you're counted in the number of people who are feeling the sudden expression of grief and sadness, know that you're not alone. There's a lot of us out here that are experiencing the same thing. So, having said all of that, I wanted to thank and welcome my beautiful guest, Varleigh, Lavender Sky Panther. Many of you have seen her in the chat before or met her in different Zoom meetings, and now she's here as our guest. I'm very excited. Um, she is actually quite an expert in a lot, or expert is the word I would use. She wouldn't use that word. I am using that word because and I've been talking to her uh, in a lot of different areas of the metaphysical and the mysterious, the beautiful and the spiritual, different ways of life. And one of those things we'll touch into some of that a little bit later. But welcome. How are you today, Varleigh?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back, and hi to everyone out there in your community and far beyond. All is well, thank goodness. And I hope for everyone too. And if not, on the outer world, I hope we have this beautiful space now with all of us together, that it is for right now, and that we feel all good. I feel the love, and I send it out to everyone and to you, Mila, because you are amazing. Yes, we have had recent talks, and I will just say, this is not a, like a shameless plug or anything for Mila, but if you know her, you know her capabilities. And if you don't, just the other day, she unraveled a mystery for me that has been lifelong, and by the ability and the way that she connects. And I'm just so grateful. So thank
Oh, well, thank you
you.
very
Oh,
much.
true.
I'm very happy to be of service whenever is possible. I have um, I feel like that it's great honor to have this opportunity. And through these conversations, we have really gotten to know one another in a higher way. I'm aware. I took actually notes of some of the things, and so, but
Oh,
one of
good.
them I find really fascinating. So those of you who are interested, her channel is linked to the description of this video. And a little bit later, I'll also put it in the live comments, and then later in the comments below for the replay viewers. This is her contact. However, your expertise specifically on crystals is what intrigues my family the most. We are a very devoted crystal family, and I was just wondering what first got you into crystals? Like what drew you to them, and discovering what they are about and what they mean and things like this.
Well, I'm gonna. Oh, before I forget, this is a new format that you're streaming this on, so it's very interesting. Thank you. You're like, forcing me to like learn and like level up. That's good. And I just see that you can actually see the live chat now. So again, beautiful blessings and hello to everybody. And I didn't know they pair mine as well. So welcome if you're on my channel too. Thank you. Yeah, but what got me into crystals, funnily enough, I think, like I said in another show, age, earth years doesn't matter, when we're all connected in the soul. I'm only making a reference because I'm about just barely maybe a decade older, which means with TV programming, because you're asking me where did I learn about, first kind of connect with crystals, or maybe got activated or alive, regarding them. I've got to say, I'm pretty sure it was a cheesy TV show, if you know what I'm going to reference. Some of you might know it, some not. If you don't know it, go on YouTube. You'll see the intro and the lovely cheesy intro to it. Land of the Lost from the 70s.
Oh,
And they have everything in there that we talk about. You've got your reptilians called the Slee Sacks. They're Slee Stacks. Sorry, forgive me if I fudge here and there. You guys can catch me in the chat. The Slee Stacks were the reptilian representative of the reptilian or the reptoids. Now they were the devolved version of the higher version of the reptilians, which there's a guy that comes in the tunic, and forgive me, I forget his name, but he's got this gold fleshy tunic, and he represents the awakened or the enlightened evolved one. And he comes back. Oh, well, spoiler alert if you're going to watch the 70s show. But anyway, he comes back to try to help make better and help his, race evolve. Anyway, this is important because when he comes in, that one in the tunic, he has all these crystals in front of him with all different colors. And that just was like, whoa, these crystals, it just, they had them lit up, illuminated, came alive. And that just made such a burning impression because I'm a very visual graphic kind of artist type person. And so as a little kid, I'm like, whoa, those are so cool. And, on the set, they were just props or probably some plastic, whatever. But to me, it's like, whoa, this world of these crystals. So that really lit me up, like literally, right? And then I don't think I really thought about them too much until honestly the last few years, because I had another major activation around 2018. And at the same time, I didn't realize that that's when I started seeing cloak and craft in the sky. I can just look up the clouds. I can tell you exactly where they are. And then through the digital technology with these, cameras now, all I do is up and lower some of the, attributes within the photo, and bam, they pop out for everyone to see. So it's not like just, oh, what is she looking at? She's pointing. There's nothing there. I can point out, and that's what I do in my show. So about the same time, something activated where I loved crystals. I started collecting them, the raw ones, the tumbled ones. I bought them in bulk even and was handing them out in little bags. I have it on the show. I don't have one right with me, little sparkle bags to different people. I was telling people about them. I had neighbors, kids come over and have them intuitively put their hand over, not looking, and pick one. And we would talk about them and the properties, right? So it really, I would just say, just really came alive. Probably around 2018, when also the activation to see the craft. Because before that, people would give me crystals and I was like, and they're really beautiful, but I never wore them. I put them in the drawer and, I really did not connect at all. So it was really, it was always in me, probably since a kid, obviously since we got here, but just newly activated, fairly recent.
Wow. So what happened in 2018 that triggered this part of your world?
Ooh, I'll have to give this the Christmas version of that because I don't want anything to happen to your channel. Let's just say that is what really woke me up. And I'll make it a quick little story. It's a true story, but it involves a spirit animal as well. Anyway, I got to do the quick version and the light version. So in 2018, I was going about my business. I think all of you can well imagine you're getting ready at night. Well, not recently, because with the ascension stuff, our sleep schedule's all over the place. We're sleeping, not sleeping, sleeping forever, staying up all night, whatever. But just assume you have a normal schedule for one night. Well, back in 2018, I had that. My normal was being up till 2 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever. But I was saying goodnight to a family member in the back of the house. It was like midnight. And then I just started cleaning up my stuff, going about business as usual. And this was this is important, well after 4th of July. This was toward the end of July. Okay. And all of a sudden, as I was saying goodnight and going back to the other part of the house, I hear this loud boom with a loud pop crack on top of it. And I'm like, and it sounded like it was distant, like at the end of the street, maybe, 10, 12 houses down. And I'm like, what the heck is that? That's not a firework. That's not gunshot. I know all of these sounds. It's not percussion drilling like on a construction site. I know that too. No sound did it, match, because it was like a loud, deep bass boom with a high pop. And it just sounded very, very different. And I thought, well, maybe some kids, you try to rationalize it, because when you don't know what's about to hit you like this, what's coming up next. Then I'm like, maybe some kids, they got some kind of fireworks, threw it in a dumpster and then blew it up. But I'm like, no, I know that sound too. That's not it. But then I was like, whatever, like we do. I couldn't quite piece it together. Nothing. I'll just continue my normal 3D life. Go ahead, right? Mm-hmm. Then I hear another one, but this time it's like a house closer, and it sounds like it's coming down the middle of the street. And then I hear another one. It's even closer, and I'm like, oh, what the heck? This is something. And the word that kept coming in my head was methodical. So something very methodical was moving down the street. And at this time, I was intuitive, but not like I am now. I've had like rapid advancement, I would say, since 2018, of really connecting into my intuition, really noticing, hyper aware of everything in a good way around me, like just sensing everything, having the spidey senses up and like trying to connect. Oh, what did that link to? And instead of just like, oh, that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this sound keeps marching down the middle of the street. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then I was getting, it's aerial. It's something happening above. So anyway, I got to keep it light. I'm reminding myself.
That's okay.
So
You just say what you want to
yeah,
say.
no, just for channel's sake. And normally I don't mind that at all, but I'm mindful of it, so I better pay attention. Anyway, it keeps coming closer. Well, then all of a sudden it hits the actual house and shakes the windows, rattles the windows and the wall in the back
Oh,
corner of the house. And I'm like, holy crap, it really, excuse me, it really felt like, oh my gosh, we're in war. Like I'm like, the next thing that hits, it's gonna blow up the house. That's the impact and level. And again, I have used firearms on a gun range just so I know how to use them one time only, and I never want to touch them again. But I know the sounds there. I know, like I said, all the sounds. So I'm like, this is something hitting the house. It's physical. This is physical. And then other people started to notice in the house. So then I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, and then that's when I had a total like freak out moment because I'm like, do I get my kids to safety? Do we go like in a door frame, like all the tornado prep?
yeah.
It's like go in the tub or go in a door frame, or where do you go in the house? Or do I go outside? We're going to get hit by whatever this is coming from above, right? So then I just knew to get calm, go within in the height of all of this. And it was just like, what do we do? And I know I was connecting to something higher, right? And I just got just a calm thing, like it's okay, stay in place, it's okay. But then the thing hit again, and it sounded like somebody massive picked up a semi truck and threw it as hard as they could against the concrete wall of the house. That's what started the sound started to come into, because it hit again. So I call 911, get the police to come. By the time they got there, the sounds kept slowly, periodically hitting, but then they kind of tapered off. At one point, I looked out the door, and let me just say, I'm not going to say an entity, but it was a black truck, no plates. Let's just say that,
Oh,
slowly
wow.
coming down the street. So when I get to 911, I'm saying what's going on, and they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll send somebody out right away, right? And then usually 911, and I know because I've worked with EOC, the Emergency Operating Center. I know the protocol. I mean, it worked there, but in a capacity. They
Hmm.
need to stay on the phone with you in the US until the police arrive. That's a protocol. You stay on the phone with the person, the whole time.
Yeah.
So then I said, oh, and I explained the noises, and I said, and I saw a black truck, and I explained it. Silence. I felt her run cold, and she hung up immediately. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm on a list. And actually, I did get a death threat later. But when I got the call on my phone, and they're like, we know where you live and stuff like this, I in my mind, I just said, oh, excuse me, this is not child friendly earmuffs. I just said, oh, F off in my mind and hung up. Like,
Yeah.
get it. I'm like, you don't interest me. Do what you want. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
don't mess with me. So anyway,
Yes, done
but
that.
yeah. So then the police finally arrive. The sounds kind of stopped. Now, one person in the house said, oh, no, it happened over you when you were, on the other side of the house. I'm like, no, it sounded like it was coming from there. So there's something very deceptive and elusive about it. And so that told me later, because it took me 6 months to find out what this was. It was sonic. It was sonic percussion impacts,
Hmm.
which rattle, but they don't leave physical damage on the roof. But it did stress crack out the foundations in the two areas where I was hearing it hit. So anyway, long story short, that literally woke me up big time, because I'm like, all right, there's something going on up there. And it took me 6 months to find out what the truck was doing. So they were just mapping and coordinating. It was like, the game Battleship, like E7 hit, D10 miss. They were just saying, okay, hit, and then because
Right.
I looked, and they went around the block and went somewhere else. And then I heard the impact again. Well, at that time, it's funny, we're going to this topic. It's a great one. So at that time, I asked all the neighborhood, did you hear anything? Oh, no, we sleep through everything. Oh, no, the TV was on, like everything. And then one neighbor did say, yeah, I felt sad, was wondering what that was. Anyway, it took me 6 months to figure this out. And I saw some stray chat like this, some kind of somebody's comment about pilots talking about, yeah, they use, not pilots, sorry, well, military pilots, that they use civilian homes as target practice sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. So this, I think, was keyed into something bigger and galactic, because the sound of the hits If anybody, you're gonna, know I'm a Star Wars fan, but if you saw the movie Empire Strikes Back, one of the, second of the original trilogy, they're bombing the meteor, not the meteor, the what do you call it? Asteroid field. They're bombing the asteroid, and it was that sound. And I'm like, it took me right back there. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm in the middle of in, but it might be military, it might be combination with them and galactic. I don't know. You might know. But whatever the case, I had to dig around for 6 months just to figure that out. And I
Wow.
didn't. So, but the key thing that came out of that was not only was I like hyperactivated now, like there's something bigger going on, but one of the messages that came through in that state of alert, because it really does open up everything, you're like, I'm ready to receive this. I don't know what to do with this. What came out of it was look up, those two words. And I'm like, look up at what? I'm not going to go run out now and get hit by whatever is going on because I didn't know it was just Sonic. I thought it was real stuff coming down.
Right, yeah.
Like, thanks, guides. Thanks, no thanks. Like, that's not helpful.
Right.
Can you have a little more elaboration or detail? Nothing came. So I'm like sitting there, like, well, I'm staying up all night because I don't know what to do with this, and I did. So it took another 6 months later. I figured out what look up meant, and that's my very first show on my channel. It meant to literally look up in the skies. And when I came out of like a equivalent of a Kmart or a Target into this huge parking lot, bam, and it's the first image on my first show. There's a huge triangle in the sky, the void, with like tufted plasma like material to like outline it. And I'm like, that's what they meant. And then I went to the people in the parking lot. Do you see that? Like, do you picture it's not just me? And they're like, yeah. And then they just pushed their cart on. I'm like, don't you see it's like a huge triangle? Yeah. And then they kept going. And I'm like, okay, something happened. But they saw it. They just didn't care. They didn't know what to do with it, I guess. No, they truly didn't care.
Yeah, right.
That was kind of a key, I would say, very key thing that happened. So that
Wow.
started it all. But it took, 2018, then it took me like 6 months to figure out, maybe another few months to actually see it. But then I still didn't quite know what I was looking at, like later, because there'd be these big cloaking things. I'm like, we don't have clouds like this in my area. What is that? But I didn't see like the cloaking craft. They just showed me slowly over time. Then they show me one and I'd see a machine part. I'm like, holy crap. Holy
Right.
shit. I'm looking at a craft. They just like slowly showed me more and more and more. So that's how my channel progressed because I held off for a while because I'm like, I don't know what I'm into here. What's going
Right.
on? So it took me until I was still always taking photographs and noticing, but then it took me until about 2020 to actually start a channel. And it happened like 3 days before the whole scam and then plus demic thing happened. So
Mm.
then, things kind of were haywire there. I didn't get a good feel of starting a channel. That was my first one, is my only one. So anyhow, that was just that little journey. So it's been pretty fascinating because more and more was shown. And when I started the channel, I said, okay, I'm going to document 5 things that are really crazy anomalies that I'm seeing right now, because it wasn't just the craft showing up. It was also the sky was like red all the time in the morning and at evening, sunset and sunrise in that period. The sun was looking different. I won't go into that topic too much, but it became white, no longer golden. That I just noticed it around that time. Because again, it was like, I got new eyes, I
Yeah.
was activated, seeing everything differently. And there were a few other things. So there was like, 5 things. Oh, who says somebody's saying something September 22nd? I don't know if that's an ongoing chat, but that's a major code that I've given from the beginning of my life. So I don't know what's going on if whoever is
I
talking
could
about
tell you
what is it?
this person had a seen aircraft that was obviously not of human origin, and
Wow.
it was in Arkansas, and so I was like, "Where?" I
Oh,
had
in
ET
Arkansas.
contact last night. Was it last night?
Oh my
And then
gosh.
so there's been I'm listening to you too, but
Yeah,
there's
no,
yeah,
I'm looking because
so
I just that caught my attention. I haven't been really watching the running chat, and I just looked up and saw September 22nd. That's coded into everything in my life to the point where I notice it. So whoever is that Karma, Karma knows something's going
Karma
on with that
knows, yeah.
922. Great. Thanks for posting that. We'll see where that leads. Yeah. So anyway, I posted like 5 key topics of strange things I started noticing with the atmosphere, with the craft and whatever, and that started it. And then yeah, so that's
Wow.
what kicked it off, was this crazy event with the house. I mean, there's stress cracks in, the
Yeah,
walls. So it
yeah,
wasn't like, oh, are you just, tripping? I do know drugs or alcohol my whole life.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
This is fascinating. So that sonic boom, you mentioned the sound. So
Oh, Yeah. Sorry. After you speak, there's one little thing I had to finish up on that.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I resonate with that too. That's usually, it seems like I've heard the story a lot of times, but I had it first, not that before you. It just I first had it, and then I started to hear other people talk about it. So
Well,
people maybe he talked about it before then. Um,
well, and for me, it's a sonic bomb, not the boom, because the boom, we know jets, and maybe it's a mix.
mhm. The sound though is one of those
Hmm.
things that it's just very distinct. And each one of us, it raises our awareness. We're like, what's going on? And like we seek out the noise, and then we see for the first time, like something is seen, like you become aware. That's like bringing you into awareness of something more. And before, one more thing I want to add, those of you who joined me on the conversation with Guardian, recently, we were talking about the rainbow, and so he put up the picture of the rainbow. The audience member that sent me that image, where she was able to see the ET craft in the sky in that image, was my guest. And so it was Varleigh here. And so it's those types of images that she's able to because as you could see, if you go back to that video, it's very clear that it's not part of the clouds. Like, they're very clear, defined lines, and I've known for years that many of the clouds aren't actually clouds at all. Like, you can watch them. It's not using my imagination at all. So that's something that, for you, that those of you in the audience that want to go back and see some kind of examples of that, as well as, of course, on your channel, you post a lot of this stuff, or you
Yeah,
have.
yeah. I want to say to each of us, whether you can like see them or not. If you look at the first 100, yeah, I mean, almost probably like 190 shows on my channel, it teaches you. I do slideshows, and I don't just say, oh, look at this overall picture, find it, because a lot of people, you can't quite pick it out. So I, put letters, I tag it, or I'll trace over, with the actual lines. So and then people can see it easier, right? So, but wherever you go, I promise. I mean, I don't promise anything, but I can on this. Any of us, no matter where you are on this planet, anywhere you go, you're just coming out of the grocery store, you look up, and if you look at like the little tips and things I show you how to find them, it's mainly looking at patterns. And you
Mm.
look, it doesn't have to just be my channel. There's a guy I saw from 9, 10 years ago, some brilliant people. I think one guy was out of Belgium, one guy was out of New Orleans. And he really, he's on one of my, referenced on one of my shows. He goes into detail, and he was drawing them too, like back 10 years ago, 9, 10 years ago. And I'm like, they knew. And now I know people probably look at my channel, which is much newer, and go, oh, she knew it, further ahead. So it's just like, I don't know, just different people are being activated to really see it. Like, I just sense it. I'm like, I'll look, I'm like, yep, there you are. And, I can see it. But it's just, you get used to, you practice it. You go out, if you go out 5 minutes a day, I say, go out, look up, just, and don't like look up and go, okay, run off. Just look there, just 5 minutes. I know these days seems like eternity for a lot of people in our culture. Swipe, swipe, swipe. But look, notice, is that cloud moving? No, it's been just standing still. That's impossible. Why
Right.
are two clouds moving together? That's impossible with a normal like wind blowing. Shouldn't have two coming like they're docking. And then you just start noticing more and more. And then you start noticing like dark shadows within the cloud, and you're like, light physics don't really work that way. And then you start to see things just straight up backlit. And again, you just go out even now, wherever you are, day or night, take a picture, come in. I guarantee you, I would find one in there, just because they are everywhere. You can't
Right.
miss. You really can't. And so it's fascinating, and it's ramped up, since 2018 as well.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's meant to be gradual. It's meant for us to slowly see them. That's We all know this isn't conspiracy. We all know this is really going on. This has been the disclosure officially started in 2020, when
It was even before that. It was in,
officially.
yes, in 2014 or 2017, somewhere around there. CNN, one of the major mainstream things, came on, and they had two Navy pilots. I remember it clear as day. You can still find it. And they're saying, yeah, we don't know what it is. Of course, they're showing it on their little crosshairs. It's all fuzzy. They've got cameras on those jet fighters, those F-22s, whatever they're flying now. That is crystal clear. Come on. And they always fuzz it out, but it's soft. It's the slow drip disclosure. So they
Yeah,
show this fuzzy thing. You can kind of make it out, but they got crystal clear detail on it, somewhere.
right,
So they're like showing it, and the pilots are saying, yeah, we don't, hey, that's none of ours. That's none of our quote unquote, enemy territory. It's
right.
not moving in a way that's human. They flat out say it, but nobody heard. It was like the shot around the world that wasn't
Yeah,
heard. So I would say to people, hey, it was even on CNN. It's not like I'm just, saying anything about UFOs. And they're like, oh, she just talks about UFOs and crystals. That wasn't even me then. And I'm like, didn't you hear that on CNN? And
yeah,
nobody even, it didn't click. It
yeah,
was like you're in the headlights. And I'm like, wow. And I know other people like in our community, if you heard it, you would have remembered and been like, yay, finally, like we're getting somewhere. So no,
yeah.
they did already slow started even ahead of the whole, crazy
Right.
of the last few years. Just was, I guess, a test. Nope, they're not ready yet to kind of hear it, right?
Well, that's the thing too, is that it's the point here is that they are doing it slowly, very softly, and when they've talked about, at least in the, and so this example as well, in the past, they bring up an occasion that's occurred in the past for a reason. The reason here is to show you you're fine. We're not being invaded. If something bad were to happen, we would have known 10 years ago.
Definitely.
When these images were first captured, they were being brought forward, or however long it's been, and it's one of those things where, it's readily understood and accepted. In fact, this is something very fascinating. Um, it might have been a month now. Time is so difficult for me to keep track of. However, they had, in this country, in the US, given out these handbooks to all of the police officer, head of police, and many of the people that are on the streets, to give them a guidebook of how to handle ET contact, crafts, when people call in and panic, how to deal with it, so on and so forth. A movement like that in such an agency is only done when it's occurring in a high frequency manner, and for us to be able
That's true.
to slowly and gradually see them is also part of what's intended, so we don't get freaked out. They don't want you to be freaked out. They don't want anybody to be freaked out, and I
No.
had ET contact last night. We went in their ship last night. It
Nice.
was, like, this happens to people, and nothing bad happened to me. Like, in fact, I got some type of upgrade. It
That's your
was
star family, unless it's a dysfunctional family that doesn't exist on the higher vibrational level, as far as I know, on higher vibrational levels.
right. Exactly. Exactly. These beings always come in to assist us in some way. Sometimes it's to redirect you, be like, that might not be the best thing to be doing right now, but they don't tell you what to do or what not to do, I find. It's just they're like the parent that gently guides, in some ways. But for the most part, every time that I've found myself in these type of interactions, there's been some type of upgrade or activation that's occurred as a result. I received some type of gift. It's not them coming against me, it's coming for me, you know. And so um I find that the conversation, that us talking about this, like Annette says, thank you for love this topic. This is a topic that needs to be discussed, and so those um there are many people who are choosing not to speak of this, and I find it in
They will
and
be
the
very soon. Everyone will be talking about it, whether they want to or not.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
I think crystals and UFOs go hand in hand.
yeah, yeah. No, and when I had that, 2018 thing, and now I'm seeing them in the clouds, about that same time, I was having recall memories of my past as a child and having ET experiences. And now There are, I just want to clarify, there are the beautiful ones that we're talking about where you get a healing or they're monitoring you and making sure you can survive on this earth plane okay, because you're one of them. We came down from somewhere. Um, but there are also the negative experiences that were happening more, from the 40s, that are called the abductions, but the positive experiences are called experiences. So the
Right.
two exist, and they're not that there aren't negative ones, but I think that
We
those were
disagree.
kept. I mean, by let's just say ones with not some good intentions, maybe. I mean, at least, yeah, we can talk about this. I do
We could
think
talk.
that there were ones that, were kind of working in conjunction with a darker military, because some of those people had experiences where they said they did see somebody in military there, and there are things going down underground that are using, I believe anyway, whether they're cleared out by now or not, negative ET forces in conjunction with a certain faction of the quote unquote military, allowing things to go on. But then there are the positive ones, experiences or experiences that are just misunderstood. And regardless, everybody's take on it. I'm just throwing it out there. When I had that like wake up moment, the one book I was drawn to look at was Dolores Cannon, The Custodians. So it's just a great read. It might, not that you agree with everything in it or not, but it might activate you, let's just say.
Yeah.
So that was a book I couldn't read it fast enough. And I'm like, wow, this makes sense. And oh, wow, okay.
I love
So
Dolores Cannon. Dolores
yeah,
Cannon has some really good
the
use.
three waves of the New Earth and the Three Waves of Volunteers was the book I read first, and then I'm like, I got to get this one. It really helped. Not that everything is 100% true, but
Right.
like anything that we're watching, they're there for a reason. All of the movies, the movie industry, yes, it has its like negatives. We're seeing the very dark side of it emerge now, but there's always a particle of truth in every single thing anybody is saying, from whatever perspective, or if we think they're bad or good. Even anything you or I say, there's going to be stuff that, yeah, for us it's true, for somebody else may or may not be. And then for
Right.
somebody else, you're like, oh, that one word did it for me, and I don't care about the rest of what you said, or yeah, all of it's clicking, right?
Right.
So
It's
interesting how
using
that
your
works.
discernment.
Yeah.
It's choosing to utilize it. Everybody has their discernment, and you can tap into it. I know that the conversations I've had have guided me to understand a lot about this. And so this is just, again, use your own discernment. Um, and this isn't a battle, by the way, for those in the audience. We love each other.
No, it's
Um,
good to discuss everything openly,
yes,
because there might be a lot of people going out there like, well, wait a minute, she's saying they're all good. And I want to hear, every perspective. And then you put together your own,
right.
understanding of what's going on. It's wonderful.
So most of the experiences of memory regarding abductions that were undesirable were actually psychic. They're not actually a
Oh, okay.
physical connection. It's a
Interesting.
harvesting of what people call loosh.
Yeah.
It's the fear pheromone. That there are some, and this is like a drop in the bucket compared to the remainder of these galactic individuals.
Okay.
These, it's the example that this one being I was talking to used was there are more human assholes than there are ET assholes.
That's funny. Gotcha. No, that makes sense too. Yeah, absolutely. That if
Yeah,
if it's like a psychic induced things that they were doing, yeah,
right.
to
And
do
so
that.
and we can connect to those types of experiences when we go to fear, which is why we're promoted to go to fear so much through Hollywood. Hollywood wants or doesn't, whatever. There's a group somewhere within Hollywood. I don't want to make a blanket statement. However, there's a group for sure that do want to perpetuate this. And so they make it readily available, this fear factor. And so we go knee jerk response wise, like muscle memory. This must be bad. They must be invading. I mean, if you go and you look to any media platform and you try to find a movie regarding ETs, it's going to be they're harvesting your brain. They're coming to take the planet over. They, all this
Blowing
type
up
of stuff.
everything.
Right. They're gonna grab you and put something up your butt,
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
and so
Those days are over now. Yeah.
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 Um,
Well, and like by the second moon thing too, because suddenly we have the quote unquote second moon. So I
yeah,
think most of us know, how do we have supposedly the best telescopes, you know, out there, people have access, and they're just, oh wait, whoa, how'd that get there? We just find out about it now.
yeah,
So we can suspect that is not, that's no moon.
right,
And also putting pressure, for disclosure to come across, and without a hitch, and go across
right,
smoothly, and nobody's going to try to, mess with it. So you got a second moon kind of looking down, whoever's operating it, going, yeah, not on our watch, guys. You're going to come clean and do this the nice way, or do we have to kind of come back again next year, and you got to explain why it's back,
right,
You know, yeah.
right. And whether or not this is, I don't, I've never, I actually got the information that they were becoming and being in our orbit for a little while before they told us about the new moon, this extra
Nice.
moon coming. So when it came, I was like, oh, cool. But that they're claiming it's going to be here till the 25th, is based on
Oh,
their
okay.
mathematical understanding or whatever. But I totally agree, man. We have 16 other planets in our solar system, that at least 16
Wow.
other planet-sized planets. I'm not talking about dwarf planets. Like there's Haumea, there's
Go on.
Makemake, there's these ones that are really small, that are, some of them are near to the size of our moon, like Luna, that moon. But there are more than that. They just don't tell us. They just don't let us know. And
Right. But
there's
they're
that.
being caught on cams, actually a lot of great YouTubers, not seekers, finders, and sharers, have done, what I'm doing too. You play with the levels within the photo to enhance it, and they jump right out. So a great channel from way back, it was called, not, well, she started way back, it's The Final Days. And on there, I don't subscribe to the religious views. And again, all of us have our own flavor, religion, spiritual, whatever. So I don't listen to that part. So that's an example. Like, I love what she's doing over here, but I can tune that out. Same thing with any of my stuff. Listen to one thing, move on, or none. I don't care. It's just, if it's meant for you, you find it, right? But on her thing, she was looking at, there's a Wolf Creek Pass cam up in north somewhere. So if you look at the cams, she got good at finding. You see the planets, and she enhances it. And then the sun, they have artificial tech. That's why the sun is white and glaring and burning everything in a non-natural way. It's artificial tech. Their patents pulled from 1960. I have that on my channel too. And so it's made artificial so that it can glare up huge. I don't know if you've noticed, but like you'll look, and then all of a sudden, like, wow, the sun just got huge, and then it's down to a pinhole. That's not our natural sun. They can control the glare on that thing, so you don't see the planets coming from behind, coming up near the sun. But when it's not glared and you know where to look, you find them. And it's like, wow, like you're saying. But officially, nah.
And you can do an experiment that I find really fun to do, especially if you live in for some reason, being in New Zealand helps. Um, However, watching the rising sun, especially if there's nothing in the way of your horizon, like a flat plane is the most useful, or high up, um, you can actually see at least one other sun behind the sun as
Yeah.
it's rising, before it's overpowering in its light. There have been instances where I've seen two. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
a glare from my phone. This is with
No,
my
it isn't. No, that's well documented. I have it on my channel, and another a channel that won't point it out, but they have cams running every day, and the person posts it every single day from the UK, from Scotland. And he has his camera doing time lapse for like 2 minutes over a couple major cities, and where you can see.
uh
And if you watch that every day, somebody, kind person in my community, tipped me off to it. It's called Fife Weather, YouTube, just FIFE
I
weather.
haven't seen this.
And when you watch the time lapse, you see the original golden sun coming up, but then you see the artificial one take over and block it out. And you see all kinds of things. You're starting to see the craft show up too, if you know what to look for. Again, he's not going to point it out, but usually on his cover, I'm saying his, I'm assuming it's the guy, cover slide, you'll see that he has an eye for it, but he just can't say it because they shadow ban him. Every time I look, it's zero, like for
Right.
years, so they don't want people knowing. So I'm telling now.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, because you can track daily coming up from the UK. So, far up there where you can see these things better.
Yeah.
And I saw just a YouTuber, he's walking down the street, and I think he's probably in this community. I think that's probably where I found his channel. and he's walking down the street just showing London area, and he's showing the moon, and you see the second full moon there because whatever spraying they didn't do that day.
Yeah,
And I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? And it wasn't glare because he's moving the camera around,
yeah,
and he didn't even realize it because he was focused on some other very good points, right?
yeah,
So you just, start looking at people's footage, and you'll start to see it,
yeah.
if you want to.
I've seen that too. I've also seen uh there's cloud coverage. So chemtrails are real. That's different than a contrail. Chemtrails we're talking about when they're actually spraying weather modification. I probably get a Wikipedia, hey, blah 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 at the bottom of this video now, but um it's a real thing. So they'll spray and you'll see it looks like a patchwork quilt. It's like, or a checkerboard in the sky. Then all of a sudden you got all these really weird clouds. And it's one of those days that I see the other sun
Mm,
in the daylight, and it went before the sun sets, or not even when it's rising yet. You'll see um, the sun that's kind of getting close to setting. You can see it as an orb. There it is. It's where it belongs. And then there's another sun over here, a light source coming from the clouds that
yeah.
would be mistaken as the glare of a sun if it weren't for the fact that it's supposed to be over there, the sun, because of the time of day it is. You know, there's more to this. This could potentially be a really long conversation if you go.
Yes. Well, those are the first 5 things, and, like, when I started waking up to this, like, just like you mentioned, you see multiple sun sources, and another one, was I call them chemical field trails forever because I don't wanna see the stupid banner pop up on my channel, but and then I got into, I don't know if you're getting any take on this, Mila, but, I'm like, yes, there are, chemical trails, absolutely. And then I was thinking there are also camouflage trails that are
Yes.
simply thrown out there. They don't have chemical in there, so don't freak out. It's not going to rain down on our food because that's the other fear factor. It's like, oh, they're all chemtrails. Okay, well, a lot are, but I've been seeing too that a lot are just like fake out trails, even like, don't look at this over here. So whoever doesn't want you to see the nice craft, they put a streak so that it's like the red herring. So you're looking at this line, and it might just be nothing in there, but just to take your attention away, like a plasma field trail or whatever,
Right.
right? So it's like a little bit, it's like not just one or none, it's like a little bit of everything happening with all of this. And but that's the one of the first things people, when they're starting waking up to what's in the sky, that was for me too, was the chemtrails and the shape of a pentagram over my neighborhood, and it didn't go away for an hour. Yeah, I think a lot of people start with the chemtrails, and then you might slowly, notice the lights or the sun. Or another thing was, what the heck? The sun rose over here, and now it's over here. This corner of my room, that in the house I've been in for 50 years, never sees the sun, and now the sun's shining there. That's a
Yeah.
proven way that something is changing. And the moon might come up in one place one night and a totally different place the other night. So you start noticing these things too, and it's like it's all designed to wake us up. Like, there's stuff going on up there. It's not
Oh
quite
yeah,
what we're used to, right?
for sure, dude. I actually have a man. So, oh, by the way, I wanted to highlight what Omega 333 has said here. If you put on your solar eclipse glasses and look at this up at the sun, you'll see what she is talking about.
Nice.
And that's been fun because now all of a sudden everybody has solar flare glasses or solar eclipse
Yes.
glasses. You
Yes, for
can
a
see
reason.
stuff that you normally wouldn't, and it's fun. Check it out, try it out because
And
it
even
is
without
bright
the
enough to
glasses.
see it. Go
And
ahead.
even without the glasses, if you just take if you have a camera phone, don't look at it like and be blinded, but just aim up there and just generally catch the sun.
Right.
And I had that on one of my shorts or one of my shows. There's a triangular craft just like sitting next to it. So again, with the cameras, I used to say like, oh, they're getting sloppy, but no, they're intentionally getting sloppy. They're not covering themselves. They're not cloaking as much anymore. And, having been someone that has been out there every single day for the past 4.5 years, almost without fail. The last year I had some family things to take care of, so I didn't do it as much. But let's just say for a good 3.5 years without pause, I was out there sunrise, sunset, watching the skies in between. And I'm seeing the acceleration is crazy how there's not as much cloaking now. It's starting to drop a little. Like, they're letting the shapes be seen better. It's funny. It's fun.
I've noticed that too. They're
Mhm.
definitely starting
Sloppy
to change.
cloaking.
And it feels very intentional. I agree with you. Like they're just like, "You're fine, here you go. See, this is it." I wanted to try to put this on. Okay, let me have to download it. There's some it sounds like I don't know. I'm not gonna. Sometimes when we talk about these things, they have been classified as what we call conspiracy theories. By the way, if you are interested, I someone had sent me a link to it. I'm not somebody who like goes around and spends time looking at uh the CIA website or anything like that. However,
You don't.
somebody no, I mean, that's not something that I really spend my time doing.
You don't get your
I don't
jollies
know.
done.
Right. However, someone sent me a link to a specific one back in 2016, and back then, they declassified documents every, I think, 50 years, I think is how it works. And it was 1946 that they had declassified a specific document talking about the name conspiracy theorist. And conspiracy theorist was in this document told to go out to all news media outlets. Back then, it was radio, probably theaters as well, and bringing up this as something to ostracize, something to dissuade your family from being a part of, to stop the whistleblowers. In this same document, they talked about beginning something that they were going to call ADD in order to shut off, I think is the word that they use, the God complex of these children's
Oh,
brains in order to stop the future whistleblowers of tomorrow.
mhm,
It's now
mhm.
called ADHD. And this was
Yeah.
1946. This was
Wow.
a
I didn't realize it
long
was
time ago.
46.
Hmm?
Yeah, I didn't realize that was 46.
Yeah.
'Cause I know in the 70s, yeah, they were putting all the kids on Ritalin. I'm like, "What is going on? They're just
Yeah.
kids."
And that's when it started.
Yeah. Yeah, big push in the 70s. Yeah, and then that's the whole thing too, when you mentioned that, you know what else, the other topic, and they very successfully
Oh,
made
sorry.
everybody laugh and
I
make fun
didn't.
of UFOs, which now they're rebranding, by the way, which I refuse to call it the new, acronym. They have them called, just for anybody who doesn't know, if you hear them talk about UAPs, they're trying to replace the name nomenclature of UFO. And UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon. And I see sometimes they say unidentified anomalous phenomenon, but it's kind of just a culpability thing. I know why it's like a legal thing. When it all comes out, as it is now by the second, they're all hearings, congressional hearings have been going on also, over this past year or two, several years, talking about them. And so what's going to happen is they're going to be forced to admit, well, who I'm talking about, forced to admit, yes, they are here, because it's going to be like everyone's going, yeah, they're here. But, now they can say, well, we did tell you about the UAPs, just to
Yeah.
try to sweep under the rug that they didn't tell you about UFOs and made you feel
Right.
like you were insane for believing UFOs. It's the same thing. So yeah, and then they did that also with the Sasquatch topic. For anybody out there, I'm sure there are people who've had real experiences. I talk about it on my channel and other podcasts. Absolutely. I didn't realize, I didn't really think about it. I didn't really connect that I did, though. I remembered it. It was like, when I was 14, and I'll never forget it. But yet I did. I'm like, how did I forget about this until the last 3 years? It was like intentionally put into dormant mode and only activated again in the last, last several years. So, but for me, it was because it was not meant to be remembered yet. Now is the time. And especially with the last 4 years, the Native American cultures talk about, with the Sasquatch appearing, that Sasquatchy people, because they're people, not a creature, just, that's my knowledge of it. They are people, they're referred to as tree people, or, it's always a people because they're very human. They're not ape, in the face. They're different types, though. Some can lean in certain directions, but they're absolutely a people when you get more into that, subject. But the thing is that, look, that's swept under the rug is crazy. But if you've had your own experience, you can't unsee it. You know what you know, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, for why well, getting back to why it's coming up now, some of the Native American tribes, I don't know how many, but at least one, said that the Sasquatchy people come, they're going to return, like more noticeable, when at the time when there's psychic disruption in the society. Well, I think we've had a major psychic disruption in this society over the last several years, about what people are not doing, how families are treated or not treated. And we've learned a heck of a lot, I think, and are just coming into a new period of we're going to learn a lot about what just happened then. Oh, it's all right. I'm like my eyes bleary, but I just see just quick. It's lavender with an E at the end. Just if you're going to put that. Thank you for putting that.
Oh, I wrote it
Yeah,
wrong.
it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, yeah. So now I would say it's a time of psychic disruption where people are really questioning not only divisive because we've been engineered to be divisive. That's not our true nature when you look at us as children coming in. But also people are doing their own, what's going on in my life? Everything is changing. And if you're having an awakening, that too, so it makes sense that it's time for them to become visible, to some. They are visiting some people to also activate you. So if the chemtrail didn't do it, you might have a Sasquatch experience. And by the way, those don't only occur in the forests. I had one in a suburban setting a couple of years ago in a backyard. Shocked out of my mind because I wasn't quite sure about the whole thing, and I've gotten really delved into the whole topic in the last 3 years intensively. But I was in my dining room doing something, and I looked up, and it was it was dusk, it was getting dark, and I had the blinds open, so I had a glass door. I looked out, and I'm like, oh, why is the neighbor in our yard? Because we don't have fences. And this tall man, thin, like walked across, and it was kind of shadowed, like I couldn't have a clear view. And I was intently working on something anyway. I'm like, why is he coming off side of his fence, into our yard? Because the fence between us was divided. And then I just kept going because I was, had to get like something done. And then later I'm like, wait, that wasn't him. He's not that tall.
Yeah.
and he always wears a baseball cap. That guy didn't have a hat on. And then I realized that was just some Sasquatch being casually blowing through. And I didn't think about it because at that time I didn't know there are many different aspects of them, just like people, different colors,
Yeah.
different textures of, the hair and everything else. But in this case, I didn't even know there's until, recently, there's even a difference in the head shape. So some people say there's the classic kind of conical shape, but there are some with just perfectly round heads, like a normal, normal human head.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't really click. And then, but I'm like, when I went back, then, they get that like, wait, I saw that, but wait, something's not quite right. And then that hit me later, and I'm like, oh yeah, no. And then it replayed. I'm like, of course. So, but so I just want to say, and not for people to be alarmed or afraid, they can know they're interdimensional beings. They can just pop up anywhere. They're not
Oh,
limited
yeah.
to a forest. They can camouflage better there. And I think they actually do have a chlorophyll in, as a part of their biosystem. And that's why they can morph into trees and morph into stuff so well. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
They seem happier in a forest setting, but so do
Oh,
we.
absolutely. Yes.
I've I've heard a couple of different fun. See, I come where I live now, which is fascinating because of I am all the way on the other side of the country of where I came from, and where I came from are both high sighting areas of Sasquatch, Bigfoot,
Oh,
whatever you want to call them, in Arkansas area where I'm at, as well as in the Washington area that I was before. And I just find that fascinating. I actually didn't know they were down here too. I thought it
yeah.
was more of like a
I didn't hear
Washington
of Arkansas
County.
so much, but they're everywhere on the
Yeah,
planet.
yeah,
And even in Florida, they are seen in the swamps, even in the swamps. So
yeah.
everywhere, everywhere.
And this is the fun theory that I have heard. I'm using the word theory only because I haven't found any evidence yet, but it resonates with me. Is that because we all know that we have been seeded. We're a seed race. We've There was something that happened a long time ago, however long ago, that individuals came and took something and then themselves and made us. This is a very widely accepted point. What I find fascinating is many people are pointing to the Sasquatch as the being that was used as a splicing mechanism to make the human. And so it uninterfered with, there are ancestors, if we were uninterfered with and had ET DNA spliced with us, which I find very interesting to consider. They are very spiritual, loving, kind, community, family oriented beings. I've never found the only time that, because people talk about aggression and all that kind of stuff, the only time I've ever seen that to be true is when they're being threatened, and when you enter in their space and their hovel, like in the wood setting, they'll put up like warnings only to say, this is my house, stay out. You got your own area, stay away from here. Um, and in situations where you're coming in as a threatening agent to disrupt their family or their safety, they'll get loud and aggressive,
And I
but
think
who
there are
wouldn't?
also ones that have been genetically manipulated, if you will, by some maybe negative groups. And, there are some that don't act and behave like that and kind of
Mhm.
give them the bad name. So I do
Yeah.
believe a hint drop to that for anybody. Again, this is a 70s reference. I was a little tiny, when it came out, but $6 Million Man. There are 2 episodes about Bigfoot, and they used Andre the Giant, the wrestler at the time, to play him. And I even recently got the DVDs. I'm like, I gotta watch this again. I just remember being terrified because I was little, and they just always like zoomed in on his hairy legs going through the forest. And I am going to do a spoiler alert, so people like mute if you don't want to hear it for a second. But interesting. This was early, like 1974, and I don't know if you know the concept, of $6 Million Man. Lee Majors, he's a test pilot, astronaut. He gets wrecked, and then the big thing is, gentlemen, we can rebuild him. And they spend $6 million to rebuild him, transhumanize him in bionic
Oh,
parts. Okay, so he's bionic. He has super, hearing, seeing, can run fast, all that stuff.
so it's like a
Anyway,
modern day Frankenstein, basically.
yeah, and
Okay.
employed by, funded by, who he's funded by. So he is sent to find out what's going on. There's like the guy that was doing the earthquake testing on the San Andreas Fault and his girlfriend are missing. Where'd they go? So he goes to find them, right? And so then they find out that, hey, there's like a Sasquatch involved. And then, of course, one of the guys on the team, the government team, is a Native American. And he's like, yeah, that's a Sasquatch print, like they show like a plaster thing. But anyway, the whole point is they do show him running around, but it was a mystery because he kept going into the mountain and disappearing. Well, it turned out they show a group of ETs that made a lab version, and it was a bionic Sasquatch. And so he was part, like the other guy, part guy, but also part like bionic. And it
Mhm.
was this group of ETs, and they were like in a Mount Shasta, is what they were alluding to. So it's
Mm.
kind of interesting because they were hint dropping, not the total truth, but just enough, so that later people like us will be activated to go, oh hey, when you're just waking up,
Yeah.
yeah, I remembered seeing something about that again. So it wouldn't be such a shock now. These
Right.
movies do have these little things in them to help us little, kids, the star seeds coming for this moment now, like Star Wars. That's why so many, do, grab onto that, or Star Trek. But for me, it's Star Wars. It was just like I lit up all over the place because we remember there's a lot of kernels of truths in there and little things like little packages there to activate now for us to go, oh, okay, now I can, it's not such a shock to embrace this whole world. Like if we didn't
Yeah.
have that as a little foundation, or like E.T., name many of those movies from the 70s. Look how intensive those movies were. And I'll even
Right.
bring it back to the Superman movie from the 70s. I hinted at, I covered that in my Crystal show. That was 1978, and he's on Krypton, and the whole planet's about to get, destroyed by a red planet. And that's what they keep threatening with Nibiru and all this talk. There is a planet coming in, but it's not going to do what they say. But anyway, in that movie, he's on this Krypton, and it's got these jumbo giant crystals like the caves of Nika in Mexico that was also in the show, the supersized crystals. And then he takes out the one pure, like green one, the Krypton. So crystals, and we've got all the ET movies, and then the Star Wars, the Star Treks, and, name them all of that era. You got to ask, like, why was it so intensive in the 70s? I think,
Yeah.
the 80s had some stragglers, like The Navigator. I only recently saw that one where they show like a cloaking, it looks like a walnut kind of craft over Florida. It was a cheesy
Yeah.
little movie, it was probably in Sarah
And
Jessica
that was a good
Parker. Yeah. But I'm trying to think, I'm sure there are plenty for each decade, but it seemed super intensive in the 70s. I'm just,
yeah.
feeling.
It's interesting that you brought up the comparison of Star Trek, Star Wars, because that was something that also the beings told me, was that Star Trek is closer than Star Wars, than to the truth.
Yeah.
And then I found out After this, I found out that the person who wrote Star Trek was actually present for some of the channelings of the Law of One.
And
Like, yeah,
Dolores Cannon supposedly was in the presence of that guy too.
yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
And so, uh,
Oh, cool.
those of you who are familiar with the Law of One, the channelings of Ra, what this was is there was two men that would kind of ask the questions, and one would dictate or write it down, and then this woman would go into trance state, and had conversations with a collective called Ra. Ra, not the same group that later came in and did some pretty horrific things. They took the name Ra, and did some horrific things. So these are two different beings. It's the same misconception we get with biblical information. They've clumped everybody into the same word, when some are these groups. Like, if you compare the Old Testament to the New Testament, those are two different gods, obviously. And if you actually go back to the original text, I kind of dabble a little bit in theology, and I find it fascinating because if you go back to the original writing, the word that they use is actually, it means a plural of those who come from the stars. That's what Elohim means. Elohim means, it's a plural, a group of individuals who come from the stars. And so, anyway, same here in this example. So I find it really useful, though not something to like spend your. It's not a religion. It's a bridge to help get you to this other spot. So if you are interested in looking at the channelings of Ra, or the channelings of Law of One, you can find them on YouTube. You can find them on any kind of search engine. You'll be able to pull them up there. They made themselves available for free because they help so many people. I just feel like that was really important to kind of put that out there because it has been so useful.
And there even is
There
a
is
question about Star Wars in there too. So somebody does ask, like, is it something like Star Wars? And then, he goes, I am Raw, and he answers the question. So I think, yeah, the Star Wars part, they do joke and say it's a what is it, like a space opera instead of soap opera. But yeah, again, it's like the little kernels of truth here and here. And I loved both, but I love the old school Star Trek. I could never get into
Yeah,
the newer, the
me
cheesy
neither.
props and Captain Kirk and all that,
Yeah. It's just the most people in that watch TV and movies want bad guys and good guys, and for whatever reason, and there really aren't as many of those stories in the galactic
Mm.
world. That we're not warriors, we're not fighting, we're just waking up and taking your power back. It's not scary, and that's the main difference that they bring up. But there's a question that got asked earlier, and I was regarding crystals. Do you mind if we change
Oh,
gears for a minute?
we were just going wherever you want to go.
This was fun. We could spend hours
I
talking
mean,
about
we're
this.
literally just going wherever you want to go. We'll talk about it. And thanks for everybody, whatever, your comments and questions and stuff, and just general support.
This is awesome. Yeah. Um, so a lot of people have been asking, just the past little bit, as well as in the chat today, what is the best crystals? Because I have, like, I don't have as much of a knowledge base as you do. There's an increased need for grounding right now, to ground. And
Mhm.
everybody's noticing this activation in the root chakra. There's a lot of lower back and like root chakra thumping stuff going on. What would
Mhm.
you suggest for someone who's looking for use through a crystal to help them with this?
Well, that's a very good question. And as I mentioned in the recent show I posted, that's as personal. People will tell you, I can rattle off the whole list of what should do this and do that. So like right away for grounding, great ones are like your earthy ones, like black tourmaline, the darker ones, some of the darker ones, black tourmaline, even black lava. There's all kinds of things. And those also are not only grounding, but I just see somebody popping up in that too.
Yep.
It's also for protection because it absorbs. This is by the book, okay? The book knowledge is and experiential people that use them. it also, absorbs your negative energies. So like onyx, anything dark, shungite, and all of us to help take away any negative energies as well. But honestly, I have gone out and held a river rock in my hand, and that was the most comforting, grounding thing ever, forgetting all the other quote unquote crystals. So it really is. Another grounding one is there's obsidian, and that's also happens to be also for protection. But to me, that also just really anchors and grounds because look at it. It's black, it's heavy, feeling heavy, right? Yeah, there
Is
you
this
go. That's
tourmaline?
black
Is it?
tourmaline. That's
Yeah.
black tourmaline. I can tell by the side. So the other thing is that they go by the rainbow, with the chakras. So hey, you're having an issue with your stomach. That's your solar plexus. You might want yellow jasper, yellow to go with the yellow. Red jasper for your base root chakra if you're having issues down there, right? Heart, there's two chakras. You've got green and pink. So you might want a chrysoprase. That's a beautiful, like seafoam green. And I'm trying to think. I was trying to put the crystals within reach. I don't have all of them, so I was just going to grab one, but it's like way across the room. So chrysoprase, it's like a beautiful, seafoam green, like greener than that, and that would be good maybe for the heart. But you might resonate more with the pink side. And like I said in the show too, my other show, by the book, it's rose quartz. Well, I get nothing out of rose quartz. To me, it's flat. There's no life in it. I can pick up any number of them. No offense to rose quartz, but I don't connect with it at all. Yeah, somebody's saying, yes, found once they find us. So others will say rhodonite because that's pink. It's got pinks and blacks. Or rhodochrosite. It's also the same thing, for the heart. So you might do that. But then again, I've got this basalt rock I got at some rock or gem mineral show, and the guy got it from somewhere. It even has like paint on it. He didn't, I don't know, something happened, but I'm like, no, I want that. And it just felt so good in the hand, and it has like a quartz vein in it. It's just a gray rock, but that could heal my heart more than some of these other ones. So it's
Right.
literally like someone said, they find you when you're walking in a setting with a lot of them, assuming you're not just picking them up off the ground, which is another thing. Everyone knows it. You walk along and, hey, I don't know, I just want to pick up that rock and put it in my pocket. Well, you've
Yeah.
just found yourself like a crystal, because that's going to be your little, what I call them, companions. That's your little companion friend who will bring you good energy or whatever. Or if you're traveling, you pick one up off the beach, right? People pick up shells or a rock. It's the same principle. But if you're in a place where you have all the crystals at your disposal, like walking through a metaphysical store, crystal store, you absolutely just let yourself be open. Don't have any preconceptions like, oh, somebody said I need this. I mentioned for
Right.
toothache, Amazonite can work great for toothache for some people. Again, others not. It might be an amethyst. Amethyst is supposed to work if you've had one. I don't think that's too many of us anymore. But if you say somebody has been drinking a little too much, they might want to have an amethyst nearby that's supposed to help with that kind of hangover situation. But again,
Oh, really?
somebody could put it there and it works great. Others could be like, meh, not working so great. I love this one over here, tiger's eye, or anything completely different.
That's what I'm wearing right now.
Yeah, and yeah, I've got some kind of amber. So it really is just feel it with your soul. I have a show where I ask people to draw, from sight, like a still life, or look at an object, draw it. But then also just forget about all that. Draw from your soul. What does it feel like to you? And then just
Mhm.
let that come through. It's kind of the same thing with these crystals. The book says that, oh, the lava is supposed to do protection. Well, are you holding it? Is it doing that for you? No, I don't feel anything. Well, then feel it out. What's there for you? And that's going to be your answer. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what color, what chakra, right? So, yes, you can go by alignment with the chakras, especially with healing. And there is kind of a magic that can happen there. I'm not saying just, toss it all out, but I'm just saying there are times to go by the book and times to just throw the book away, pretend it doesn't exist, right? And there's examples for me. I just see Tektite some there. The other thing too is sometimes you can feel it loud and clear, like even through, if you go online to find a crystal, you can also feel it. Is that my crystal or not? But sometimes, it might be a little harder. It's always good to be in presence of the crystal if you can. But like some people were saying, oh, you got to get, what's the one I don't like? Oh, like hematite. I don't want to be anywhere around it. Is it going to
Mm.
make me ill? No, but I just get like zero vibe. And please, I don't even want it near my sphere.
Right.
There's some like that. And I mentioned too, Moldavite. Everybody swears by it. Moldavite is one of those space rocks coming from meteor coming in. And moldavite is green. It looks like a jade, like, dark green glass. And you got to be careful with that because there's a lot of fake moldavite people are selling as authentic. So you got to make sure it's authentic if that's what you're looking for. However, with that too, say you got a bum moldavite and it's a piece of glass. Well, hey, are you getting a good vibe off of that glass? That glass
Right.
also has energy. So it doesn't have to be the true crystal either, right? Then there's Campo del Cielo, and you're, coming from Argentina area. Again, one of those space rock kind of things. I think it forms though as the meteorite hits the ground. I got one of those, and then I started having terrible visitors by these like astral spiders. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I pinned it down to it was the same time I got this ring because it was like no accident, the timing. And then if I understood things better, like I do now, because this was years ago, like 4 years ago, maybe I would have kept it and done something different or cleaned it. But I was just like, oh heck, this brought in this. I don't want anything to do with it. And I
Yeah.
got rid of it.
I'm
So
all set.
we're good. We don't need to play with that. So again, you got to just go with your intuition, and then don't just like commit to it. Say, oh, I bought it, now it's mine. I'm going to keep it if you don't like it. And then there's, crystals for gifting to other people. And you could do it the same way. Just kind of go into your heart, think of the person, think what they might like. And then if they don't like it, they might, gift it further.
Right.
And then the whole crystal healing process is fascinating because when you really get in tune with the healing, and again, don't go necessarily by the book, you're going with your intuition and you're feeling it out and feeling the person's energy, you'll start to probably get pictures of, oh, I need to place a green one over here or a purple one down here. And it's all about intuitive feeling with them because they're frequencies and we're frequencies. And like we have a good or bad day, we have a high vibe day. Oh man, hey, suddenly that rose quartz is looking great, maybe, although still not. I don't know what it is with me, rose quartz, but you know what I mean? Like one crystal that you're like normally, like, oh, I want to wear that today. So you just go by feel with that too, right?
I like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. You do have a couple of questions I'm gonna read for you.
Okay.
Um, what do you pick up from, carnelian crystal and, Darwin glass Kektite energy?
Yeah.
There's another
Again,
couple questions
oh,
after this.
okay. For me, just me personally, because as many of there are us, I like to do analogy of like, what do you call it? Dream interpretation. All right. Say you have a dream, Mila, and you ask 10 of us, I mean, it's just a random number, doesn't matter how many, but just say 10. And you're like, hey, what do you think I dreamt? I explained it. What does that mean? What's the symbology? What does it mean? And you get 10 different answers because as many of us, there's probably going to be 10 different answers. There might be a little bit of an overlap because we're all connected into different things and we're trying to connect in and we're shown different things. So 10 different people give you 10 different answers. So which was the right interpretation?
Yeah.
Which? It's the one that
You're
you say, oh, you have it, that one clicked. Sorry, guys, the other ones didn't, but yes, that was it. Or that's a big part of it. Now I got it. So again, it's just not everyone's going to have the same feeling about the crystal. So I can say carnelian, hey, it's pretty, but it's what I want to say is it's gem or stone specific. So not all carnelians, like all people, aren't created equal. Sorry, we have our own. We're unique. One size doesn't fit all. So if I look at a specific piece of carnelian, that might sing to me, and I think, oh, that's just the best ever. But there might be another one that again just kind of falls flat, like I'm not vibing with you. It's like people coming together like, hey, we can chat, it's great. And another one,
Mhm.
it's not like you don't like them, but it's like, oh, I don't know why, I'm just not feeling that connection. And that's how I feel about it. And it could be carnelian's great one day, and then next week I'm like just not vibing with it as much, or
Right.
I love it forever. It just depends. And tektite, to be honest, I have not worked with that at all. So I know that's popular now. Tektite and Herkimer diamond are coming up on the radar a lot for people, like you're finding good energies with them. So it's just a personal thing. And then you could even order one, say, because you're not going to rock hound it yourself or get it another way. And then it comes in and you're just not feeling it. Well,
Yeah.
you might just
I've
want to
had that
put it, yeah, but maybe put it on the shelf for a while, unless it calls to you to gift it further and then see it another time. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now's the time to work with it. Right.
right. There's another question that I wanna read, but before I was just really curious that you might know the name of this because this looks like my wings. So I got them. I got a couple of them. Do you know what that crystal is called?
It's hard to tell it. It looks like labradorite, but I don't know if that's just the blue reflecting.
It's
It's
not
a
labradorite.
oh, that's bismuth. It might be bismuth. It's hard to tell from here. It could be
Okay.
if it's metallic, like a rainbow sheen. It's either bismuth or aura quartz, but I'd have to. I can't quite tell from
I'll
the
get a
camera.
picture and email it to you. It's
Yeah,
got a
I'll know
curiosity.
it if I get a better, picture of it. And I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah, here's a carnelian piece. Um,
Ooh,
I might have a. I think that's carnelian and orange calcite together, but it really is just a thing. Like, and just as it's not even the type, right? It's not here. I'm not trying to look away on purpose, but um, it's not even the type, but it's also the texture. So like here's like a more well, yeah, it's kind of rainbow magic happening here, but
you put
here
it
we
in
go.
front of your body, it's better?
Yeah, okay. Well, but they can't see it as much. But anyway, this is smoky quartz. It's like a brown smoky quartz, and it's
Yeah.
rough, but it's a little shiny too. It's not like pure rough where you wouldn't have so much sheen on it. But then, you might have a very smooth, more like a palm stone of something. And the two feels are total two feels are totally different. So for
Right.
me, it's just something that you got to put in your hand and just
Yeah.
and just feel it. You can look at a picture and say that's pretty and maybe connect. But to me, the ultimate test is when you have it in your hand.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can, just like everything else in our world these days, you can have a telepathic conversation with it, just like with trees and water and anything else, plants, and just say like, "Hey, you want to come with me? Are we good? Fit?" And I haven't known a crystal that's just like, "Get away from me." The energy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we'll work together.
Right.
But yeah, so many different things. And if you're talking geodes, where you got like the more jagged crystals in them, and we've got, so many varieties of these. Just tumbled stone is smooth. You either really click with a tumbled stone or you like the rough one. Or there
Yeah,
might be times,
I'm a rough stone person.
yeah, I normally like rough, but there are times where I'm like, oh, I do like that one, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's very personal, like picking a tie for somebody or perfume for a woman,
Yeah.
back in the old days.
I just find that the energy's stronger when it's rough, but it's just natural form.
Yeah,
Here's
and
another
also
question for you.
where you get them from, where they have been living, so to speak, and the weight, if you're looking for comfort, it's like a heavy blanket comforts people. You might want a
Mhm.
heavier one, right? And rather than a
Yeah.
chip, right? And then
Yeah.
there's, yeah, stuff like bumblebee jasper. It's very happy. It looks like a little, bumblebee, yellow with black. It can be a little orange, lots of different things in it. But I wore that around my neck just as a smooth little tumbled pendant, and I would wear it when I was walking into the hospital if I was having to visit somebody or do healing, and just having it on. Other people might pick it up and resonate with it and not know why. So it's
Yeah.
just, go with your, yeah. Oh yeah, somebody's saying rainbow bismuth. I think that is what you have. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It could also be a aura, rainbow aura on the quartz, but the shard looks like bismuth.
I
Mhm.
also got a kyanite. Well,
Kyanite.
I've had this one up for a long time. Is wearing fossilized pendant like Orthocera series uh, good for anything
Oh,
in particular? Ceras.
yeah, that one again with the fossilized stuff. I think that's the one. If I remember, it's like the white fossil on the black background, or vice versa. But they have those popping up at some gem and mineral shows, and they have like dinosaur fossil, like dinosaur bone and stuff. I've been given not the one that they were referencing, but I got something similar. And again, it's all about resonance. It's like if something feels good or something feels bad, or if it feels neutral, fine. So if you even get a slightly negative vibe, I would just suggest then you don't need to do that to yourself unless you want to. Then just maybe refrain from that, right? And if it's gifted to you and you're like, haha, thanks, but right away you don't like it, we don't want to be rude, but I have stuff where I by rights should like it. It looks like I should, but I hold it and I'm just like, no, I just don't want to put it on. So just it's like listening to your heart on it. But the
Yeah.
fossilized stuff that can work too, and things like cypress knees. I ran into a girl at a diner, and she was bringing the coffee, and I'm like, oh hey, is that a cypress? And we got in a whole gem and mineral, crystal conversation, and yeah, so for her it was the piece of wood. And then there's also petrified wood. It's crystallized. You get quartz
Yeah.
things built up in the wood. So somebody might want to wear that around. And again, I just say it's just totally personal and by feel. And now if you have somebody who is doing a healing session on you, then that's when you just let yourself go. If they're working with crystals, I do that. Let yourself go and then trust that their intuition, their intent is to elevate you and heal you. And they're bringing sometimes stuff in from a higher dimension through. And so they're going to see it and visualize, which ones kind of are going to go for you. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I don't want that color near me, because the person is not going to put anything near you that they know is going to disrupt your field. It's only going to help you. And
Right.
I've even done that with pets. I did it with a dog. It's fascinating because it works with the dog too. And you start to see which crystal should go where. And the dog, is fine because they're just in bliss and they're just, fine. You put something there they don't like, you would see some kind of movement. But when you're in
Yeah.
tuned, you're not going to, put the wrong thing there, type of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This leads to a fun question, if not question, but I've just interesting, you know, antidote. I find this really fascinating. I've seen this to be true throughout my life, and there's a legend or a story that goes with this. It's the legend of the jumping stone, and the story is that the stones that crystals, gems, whatever word you want to use. I call them stones or rocks usually because that covers a lot of bases. Um, is that there'll be a time that the stone is like, our relationship is complete. Thank you. We did
Oh,
great
yes.
together.
Yeah,
And
that's
now
a
it's
good
time for you
topic.
to jump out of your pocket and someone else
Good
and
topic.
go to someone else. Have you heard of this?
The way you're describing it, no, but that's beautiful. Makes sense. Or you lose it, right? You just lose it. And what I say, like I've had some people come very kind of disconcerted because say they bought oh well, here I do have an example. Sorry, I should have just had my whole everything here, but like,
Okay.
we all have these beaded bracelets, right? So here's an example. Normally I'm not a fan of shungite, but I have it. I don't know why, but I just put it on. And I have the Presley bluestone. Well, it's supposed to be good against like the radiation and other things like off the computer, as is, clear quartz. And by the way, clear quartz is an amplifier for everything. So not only is it just, nice and pure and high vibed. Yep. Well, you've got plenty. Yeah, I got mine. I wear, as a pendant. And this can also be a pendulum, by the way, whatever you wear around your neck. Doesn't have to have a point on it if you want to work it as a pendulum. But the thing is that, yeah, I mean, and just, throw whatever on. That's Presley, Bluestone, and whatnot. And I was going somewhere with this. Oh my gosh, I just lost it. Oh, and we were talking about losing rocks. So there we go. I lost my marble, so to speak. Yeah. So the hopping, so the hopping stone, we lost it, right? So, and I just lost it. So the losing of the stone, yes, that's intentional. It's like no longer you guys have done your journey. Or you can also like, and I got to put the Lord of the Rings reference in here. It's like the ring was like jumping out when it wanted to go with like a negative vibe person. So, it went to that, it was drawn to that person. So your rock isn't like doing that. But yeah, it's just jumping because you've had your time, you had your journey. And it knows either it wants to return to the earth or it knows somehow that the next person coming along is going to really need it. Now, the
Yes.
beautiful thing is, these crystals have memory. They store, they're record keepers, whether it's from ancient Lemuria or more recent things. In healing sessions, it's said that, say I heal somebody's knee, or when I say I heal, it's power coming through, it's connected, from somewhere else to just moving through me as a bridge. But say that one crystal, we'll just use an example. Say I use this, I set it near the knee. This is just a wild, it could be near anything. It's how I'm guided. But
What's that?
this is Caribbean calcite. It's actually really pretty. It looks like the ocean in swirls, and you get some. It even looks like it has sand because it has like the brown
Yeah,
part, and then like blue, and then that looks like the waves. So you can get some really gorgeous
pretty.
ones. This is just a basic, but I liked it as a palm stone. It's very heavy. But anyway, so say I put this by a knee, and it's probably a terrible example. I should have said somewhere else, but it depends on the person and what visualizes what comes through, what to put where, that they're ailing or whatever. And in this case, say some magical, wonderful healing came around the knee area. Well, that client, or I don't want to say client, the person goes away, and that's done. And they're like, hey, I'm happy. Or they might come back for something else or do something else. But in the meantime, I still have this that, heal the knee. Now, if I feel it, I might gift this to the person on the knee that it worked, if it seems appropriate, if I'm guided to. Or this is part of my healing toolkit. I don't want to do that because now this is recorded with knee healing memory in it. So now if there's anyone else coming along with a similar ailment, or it just calls to go near them, it has that extra power boost recorded in the memory of how to do that. and then
Yeah.
you would place that near their knee too. So it's really beautiful how this all
Mm.
can work. Now, in addition to the jumping rock or stone, there's also the concept. The reason why I brought this up, now I got it,
Yeah.
is say somebody just bought one of these lovely little bracelets. These come in any crystal you want. You know, as many as there are crystals, you can get it in a palm stone form, these little beads, anything. Well, say, hey, I just picked it up at the store. I'm so happy, and I'm going to wear my bracelet. And I just jump in the car, and I know I don't even get to the corner, and it breaks. It
Yeah.
busts, the beads go everywhere. A lot of people freak out and they're like, oh my God, you know, it's either bad luck or what happened to all my beads? And, you know, it's good. It means you were protected. You might have had a psychic attack at that moment and it protected you. That's why people
Yeah.
wear those eyes. I don't resonate with those eyes. A lot of people do. The beads with like the evil eye. And if they
Mhm.
crack, that means, you know, it just protected you from somebody throwing shade,
Right.
basically. So in this case, if your whole bead breaks, it's not like, oh, that cheap bracelet. I mean, it could be a case of that, but it's rare.
Right.
It could just be that you were only meant to have it, even just from the trip from the front of the door to the store to the corner, and it served you in that amount of time. Now, of course, you can gather them all back up and restring them. You know, I would,
Right.
but don't be sad about it. It did
Right.
something for you. You know, and again, it doesn't have to be throwing shade. It may have just pulsed
Right.
something, or you know, any number of things. But it's okay.
And likely one of the stones, one of the beads, you don't even notice you're missing it, needed to hop to someone else.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the jumping of the stones.
Yeah, look,
You
maybe
know,
it fell in the parking lot and someone comes up and they're just fascinated, and now you've just started their whole journey of crystals, right? Because they found
yeah.
this thing that they're intrigued with, right? Yeah.
Like the story that Guardian was telling last time, he was saying that he had a really thick pendant. I think it was obsidian, but it might have been something else. It was a black stone, I remember that. Anyway, he had a really crazy experience in sleep, and when he woke up, it was broken in 3 places, and he was still sitting, just laying perfectly flat. Like it was on, and like the energy that had come in was unkind energy that he had an experience with.
Wow.
And so it had broken in three,
That's
thirds,
powerful. That whatever came
and
in
it
was
was real
powerful.
thick. Yeah,
Yeah, to do that.
yeah, and it did
Yeah.
its job.
Yeah.
It helped him. So instead of being sad about it, it's like, "Wow, thank you, stone."
And look at it, and now you have 3 instead of 1. You
Yeah,
have 3
right.
pieces, and maybe now you put 1 on your windowsill, 1 over here, 1 over there. That's the other
Yeah,
thing we get into the whole thing about gridding, and whether you're doing stuff outside in nature, like you mentioned that one YouTube channel, I put it in my show too, referenced her as well. She does those beautiful grids, Kristen
Kristen's grids.
crystal grids. And then, you have people that, you know, grid inside the home. So you might wanna put special crystals in the corners, you know, if you have, you know, that's if you have corners and not like rounded corners. You put them in there for the energy, right? Or you can put them under a bed. You know, if somebody is having a nightmare, or you have, you know, a child, a loved one's having nightmares, you can look into which stones might be good for that. And again, it goes by feel. It could be the magical stone labradorite. You know, they call it the magical stone. It's beautiful with the flashes in it. But
Mm,
that might work under the bed to soothe, or might be, yeah, you need a more soothing stone like celestite, you know, to calm. But again, we go back to what feels right. It might be amethyst. It might be any number of things. Just if you know, you hold it, or chrysocolla is another beautiful one for like the heart. And, you know, and so, yeah, it's just infinite ways that can go. And then you might want to put one at the front of your door, you know, just kind of, it's kind of, again, it's your friend. It's like saying, instead of having a bouncer or somebody standing there, don't let any bad guys in, you know, an actual human at a nightclub, you can just
yeah,
have a little thing of crystals down at the by the doorstep, and just put, they can even be like pebble sized, you know, little crystals, and put them in there. I have a little one. I said I had just some extra ones that I kind of wanted to give them an airing. I didn't necessarily want to work with them. So they've been sitting there. And for me, it's kind of like a good radar if we have theft in the neighborhood, because they're beautiful, different colors. But they're
yeah,
kind of like my little doorway guardians. And, you know, I just feel good that they're there. Like they see whoever's coming and going. And they also emit an energy field where somebody might approach and just be like, oh, I don't want to touch this house. Let me go somewhere else, right? If they're up to no good. And because that's kind of like your protection, like at the threshold, you could put also one of those other negative energy absorbers, any number of them, you know, that we just discussed. And then, you know, that's salt crystals too. Those are crystals. Some people put
Yeah.
salt along the fresh threshold, to kind of clear out any negative energies. So yeah, lots of
I wanted
possibilities.
to show you something because where I live, you probably have seen this. I don't know if you have or not. I made a short about it.
I love
There's,
that one. Are you kidding? I was like, they're just
yeah,
popping up out of the ground.
they really do. And
Oh,
so
that's
this still has it,
amazing.
but they're considered junk around here.
Oh my gosh.
This is just garbage. Because it's got copper and obsidian
Beautiful.
and quartz in there. To them, this isn't a pure stone.
Amazing.
This one I got at a local, mining place, and so it still has its dirt from the area. But these, because they're considered garbage,
That's
there's some
nice.
that are really big, and they do look like that someone just dropped them all in the ground, but they're coming up from the ground. It's crazy. What's really cool about this is a naturally forming or naturally formed organite. It's
Right.
one
It's
of
got it
these.
all in there.
It's got it all in there. And so, like, what we'll do here is we have these chunks of stone in every corner of the house. And then this isn't the one we've used, but we use some type, like you said, something pointy. And you act like I let my daughter do it because she's like that happy, awesome energy. And it's like a fairy. You go ding and you touch it and you take your little wand to the next spot. Ding. And then you always make sure this is just something that I've learned by my own experience. Like you might have more to add to that. That's why I'm bringing this up. Um, is that where you spend your most time, you want to cross section the energy there. So from corner to corner to corner to corner to line up the where you're spending the bulk of, so like right here in front of this device, I spend quite a bit of time. So that's why I have so much going on around here crystal wise, to amplify the energy, to cleanse it, to do, like, I understand that they're tools, not, and that they're amplifying the things that I already have available to me as assets and powers, stuff like that. But there's probably more you can add to that, but that's something that I've learned. So
No, that's great. And yeah, I'm not even there, with like with getting into the room and the nuances of what you can do beyond, what you've said and I've said, but you brought up something that I just wanted to bring up, is that the reminder, the way you were describing it and everything coming into the room, I like that you were like pulling everything into you. And the biggest
yeah,
reminder of all is we are a crystal. We are moving from carbon base, they say, right, to the crystalline state. That's what we're doing with ascension and all these ascension symptoms is our body's transforming. It's rejecting the different foods. It's sensing the chemicals, and that's part of why we're rejecting certain foods, because it's more to it.
yeah,
But our body is seeking to get lighter, even if it's just in our mind. We just want to feel lighter because we're going toward this crystalline state. There's also the crystals behind your ears. They call it the piezo, I always say it wrong, piezo crystals. And that's, you notice that when those are not quite balanced, you feel a little dizzy or, whatever. And so
yeah,
we have crystals, within us, and we are the crystals. So we're the step down transformer, especially if you're doing healing work and you're pulling it in from somewhere else. I called it in the show that I did. We're in the electrical world. If you look out and see the power lines, if you have any outside, above ground, they have a big transformer box, or like it looks like a trash can. That's and then you'll see you have like 3 strands, and you got the lower wire that's insulated, and then it goes higher. The high wire is not, because it's running a ton of energy voltage. So that's what you call the transformer, is the 3-phase step down, or you can also step up with the step down transformer. So that transformer thing is taking very high frequency and moving it through and taking it to a lower frequency. So that's what we are. We are that crystal when we're doing healing, bringing in from the ethers the high frequency, the divine frequency, high powered stuff moves through us, and we can do the healing, and then it moves out. So we are that crystal performing that transformer type work with that energy, right? So, it does all go hand in hand. But I like that you said that, because it's like everything comes to us. But also, just to remember, we are also an amplifier out. So when we just walk through, I use this all the time, of course, walk through the grocery store, people start lighting up around you. That's because we are that crystal energy, just sending it out, whether we are consciously doing it or not. And just to keep sight of that. So all that, like I like to say, like all these other things, These are slices. These are pretty cool, hard to see. It comes in all forms of these stones. But any of these things, these are just helpers, assistants, to like work like a working relationship, like at a job, or you're working with somebody in the kitchen. Hand me that, oh, you do that, and I'll wash that, and we're working together here, and you can speak to them, hey, I picked this one up. I think it's the right one. Let me pick a different one. um Here, this is peacock ore. This is kind of, I think, what you had. It's like a little rainbow and also a little muddy looking. Peacock ore. Okay, so let me just hold it, and I
Is
just
that what this is?
no, because of the shape and the way that's extruded.
Okay.
Yeah, but
You don't know. I don't know what that
it's
is.
kind of hard to see. Oh wait, and again, that looks like angel quartz. That looks like they put a coating on top of clear quartz. That's what that looks like.
Ah,
It looks like angel aura quartz, but again, without like seeing it, like somebody else said, bismuth comes in different like shard looks or like that. So it's kind of, but that looks like a coated, like a rainbow or a angel aura quartz.
interesting.
So this one, like, just say I picked this up, and I could just say, hey, you know what, you know, you want to work with me? Can we fix my ear? I don't know. I'm just saying, and then you just kind of feel it out, like, nothing coming back. Okay, maybe, you might put it on your nightstand and then have the intention. Okay, when I sleep, do you mind? Can we kind of work on this? Or, if it's
Yeah.
just for comfort, or I have a broken heart, I feel blue. Can you be there with me? And can we like maybe elevate that a bit? And it can, if you put the intention in and it seems symbiotic, harmonious, that's how you can work with it too. I put the example of, what is it? Yeah, the example of the Presley Bluestone. I don't have it with me again, but my little story that I had it by the nightstand. I didn't know the power of crystals, and I just kind of carelessly, or just didn't give much thought. I put a palm stone of it, by my bed, and then I had one of the most intense dreams of my life. That was astral traveling, and I actually physically, my etheric body went to an entrance to inner earth, and I interacted with people and everything. I had never had a dream like that in my life, but my
Cool.
intent was that Presley Bluestone is on the inner circle of the inner arc of Stonehenge. That's the stone on the inner arc. The outer stones are the sarsen stones, the big standing stones. So I had gotten the palm stone because I knew I was not going to be traveling back to England until I didn't know when, if ever again. And I just
Right.
kind of wanted to have a connection. So that's why I put that specific palm stone, because it's Presley Bluestone. And then I found out later, I didn't know about it. I found out later, oh yeah, it's a powerful ancestral stone if you want to connect. I had no clue. So sometimes
That's
you
cool.
just find out some fun things by accident, quote unquote, right?
Right. That's really fascinating.
Hmm.
I learned something else about lapis lazuli as an example that I was going to bring up. Before I said that, though, y'all, a lot of people saw me bring this up. Like
Yeah.
it got cracked, and so I had to glue it back together again. How it got cracked was it's selenite, and it's a means of charging or cleansing, like drinks. Is how I use it, because it's self cleansing. Selenite, you don't have to like, because that's what is going to lead into the next topic in a second. A lot of these crystals do need, it assists you to cleanse them and help them in this way. In fact, let's just go there now. Uh, uh, and so, what are the different? I'll just let you take this question. What are the different means that you would use to cleanse or clear crystals?
Okay, there's
Like,
so many ways, and I'll just try to rattle them off quickly, and there'll be more than I mentioned. First of all, there are some that do not require cleaning, that won't. And also, as much as you're around, you're the purifier, you're the crystal as well to help. However, some swear by putting it next to selenite for cleansing, putting it up next to another stone. Some like to put it near, the clear quartz is more of like an amplifier. So you don't want to, that can work too. It's more of the purer crystal. But some say selenite, but for me, again, I'm not feeling that. But is it a valid way? Absolutely. For other people, that works. So one way is using other crystals. There's also Moroccan druzy, and that has a very powerful energy to purify. It's white with little teeth on it. Again, sorry, I should have had everything near me. It's in the other
oh,
room, but
you're
it's
fine.
yeah,
This is fun.
but it's on the show. If you go to the show, though, I have the example there, and I put a piece of
Yeah,
amethyst on
please,
it.
anybody who went is interested, I'm gonna
Yeah.
cut you off just for a
Okay.
second. Anyone who's interested, just a couple of days ago, Varleigh here has posted a really extensive, amazing video. I've only watched about half of it so
It's
so
like an
far.
hour and 45 minutes. I didn't know it was going to go on that long.
Her channel is linked to the description of this video. So if you are interested and you want to check that out, I encourage you to do so. So thank you for
Yeah.
letting me cut you off. Go ahead,
Yeah, and I
please.
see Sherry and other people are popping up with some good ways. So the first thing, crystal world, you can work with other crystals. Then I would say seek out, okay, we all have a star sign, right? Our main star sign and our rising sign and your moon. So I don't know, that's one thing for everyone out there. I don't know if you know those three things. Usually people know their zodiac. Oh, I'm a, Libra, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a whatever, right? But do you know your rising sign? Because that gets fun. And then do you know your moon? Because the reason why I'm bringing it up is that shows you how much loaded in your star chart are you mega earth? Do you have a lot of water in there? Do you have some fire? Because then you might resonate with cleaning your crystals. Like for me, when I instantly think of it, I want to put it on the ground. I might put it at the base of a tree, or I might want to bury it in the earth, or I might want to bury it in the sand on the beach because I'm not like fully resonant with water, but I don't mind that it's sand is there with the water, right? Or so that's kind of like would be pulling you toward that earth element energy and how to clear or cleanse your crystals. Other people love the moon. I am no fangirl of the moon. I've said that before. I just don't click with it. But other people, oh my God, moon goddess energy, all of that. Beautiful. So as Sherry, I see that there. Yeah, put it in the moonlight. You can put it even on inside on a kitchen windowsill or something if you're worried someone's going to steal it, if you're not living in a place where you can have a secure property. Or you put it outside, and just let it, get the moonlight. Sun, the fire energy, you can put it out in the sun. But like for me, it's not the same sun. So I love the sun, but the true sun. So I don't want the kind of artificial stuff. But for other people, it doesn't matter. You're putting it in the sunlight. Or the fire energy is what? A candle. You can pass it, over, just it can even be small candle, big candle, whatever you want, and just kind of pass it over the flame. Or you can get incense, use again fire and smoke. You can smoke it. You can get sage. You can sage it. Yeah, there you go. You can white sage it, juniper, palo santo, so many different types of things you can burn. As long as it has a high vibe, we don't have to split hairs over, oh no, only sage works. I mean, that's the big powerhouse of cleansers. And
That's
Palo
what Palo
Santo.
Santo is.
Yeah. And Palo Santo is like it's like a sweet wood. Now, if you're earth energy, you probably, you might want more of the Palo Santo. That's more of like a tree, with the bark. Or you might be fine with the sage because that's also earth energy, right? Then you have water. And so you can put it in water, like out in the moonlight in water. Some people charge water with their crystals, right?
Crystal water.
Yeah,
I
so you
love
can
that.
cleanse it in there. Oh, but be careful because selenite, turquoise, there's a ton that I rattled off, will degrade in water. So you don't want them to degrade
Yeah, the
unless you
selenite flakes off. You can see it
yeah,
maybe. A
it
little
degrades
flakes. You
and
can't really tell.
it does not like water because it's going to like break it up. So you just got to watch that part. But if other ones are more durable, you might think salt water is what you want to do. So you just got to check and make sure they can handle it. Let's see, I'm probably forgetting some other ways. And my favorite way is just holding it myself. And I put in my Christ consciousness, my pure intention, and just say, connect in with the divine. And so for me, that's the number one way, just for me personally. Other people might run to the sage or juniper or whatever else to smoke it, smudge it. Like I said, others put it in water or just, put it outside and exactly wood, put it near the tree, that type of thing. And that's the other related thing is when you have, I don't know what circumstance you would have this, but I guess, yes, of course it would happen. If you have an unwanted crystal, say for some reason, I don't know, you can't keep it anymore. I don't know what the circumstance would be, but you just have to get rid of it. Say you're moving, and, across a different country and they won't let you come in with it. I don't know, and you can't gift it and you're in a panic and you can't, not a panic, but you can't find anybody to give it to. Well, return it to the earth is what I say, again, at the base of a tree, in the water, throw it in the ocean or in a creek or river or whatever, place it lovingly, bury it in the earth, do any number of things is just, a nice way to do it. And you can also just intuit, like, where do you want to go, Crystal? Ask it. I would have to close my eyes, just say, where would you like to be? And then feel it out. It may say, call you to go put it in a public park in a specific place. And then it knows that like you're hopping out of the pocket thing, it knows where it's supposed to be next, for whatever purpose, right?
And this might be because I have some Virgo in me too. this might be part of this because of the earth part aspect. Though one of the things that if I if I'm living in a place where I feel like it's not going to be dug up, I like to bury it near a tree to cleanse it. Like
Hmm.
that's really cool. Putting it in a salt, not just water salt, but just salt
Actual
by
song.
itself. That's actually how I was raised. That's what my dad used to do. He always used to carry a crystal in a in a bag around his neck all the time, and he would cleanse it in salt. You make sure you don't consume the salt after you're done with it. That's something that's useful to keep in mind, is that these are ways of cleansing it, and so that's considered now containing the energy, likely, um I like what Sherry said, making sure that it's a full moon or a new moon. That's also
Yeah,
really cool, you know like that. You don't have to have it be a full moon or a new moon. That's just usually that's something we do in my house. When we
yeah,
know it's about to be a full moon, we're putting all the crystals out.
yeah,
Like it's like
yeah. Those are the
time.
key times to maximize. Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
energies. Yeah, and then but then you're like putting all your hopes on that it's not going to be cloudy that day, but you can still put it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, yeah. Just
Typically, you
depends
have at
on.
least a little bit of light funneling through
Yeah,
the clouds. Not always, not always. Like
it
when we
still
were
works.
living
It's
up
the
north,
energies. Yeah, it's the
we would have
energies.
those snow those snowstorms would come through. There was no light going through those
Oh,
nighttime.
yeah.
You know, we miss that though. It's so weird. It's already November, and the weather we're experiencing here in Arkansas is what we're used to up in Washington State. We lived like in the corner of Idaho, Canada, and Washington, so we're right there, real inland. But where we were
Wow.
living before, the weather we're having now is what it's like in September, early September. And so it's really confusing. We haven't even had many leaves fall yet, like hardly any leaves have even changed colors. It's so weird.
Well,
But
I'm in Miami where we have no seasons. So you'll have leaves falling, but at weird times. So it's yeah, it's like it's funny. The concept of a winter and snow is just inconceivable. Not yeah, yeah, it's funny.
that's probably the thing that I miss the most is the snow. Really, like, I knew I was gonna miss it right away. On our way to the airport to leave Washington, it started to snow, and both my daughter and I kinda had a little weep moment there. We were just like, "Oh," because
Yeah.
I love it. I would spend all night long when there was a storm, I would stay up all night long just out there shoveling the whole time because I like it.
That's
I
nice.
would, like, pile all the snow into a big pile, and the kids would all climb on it, but yeah.
Well, you can visit
Anyway,
it. You can visit snow.
yeah, we do plan to. We do.
Yeah.
Um We should probably wrap this up. I do wanna ask, I don't know, but just tell a story about this crystal because I think it's really fun. We're already on this topic.
That's
This
beautiful.
used to be all the way clear,
Oh.
and I had gotten it from the local mine. I happened to live so Arkansas is known as the diamond state because this is where we have diamonds and crystals naturally occurring all and they just kind of pop up out of the ground. And I'd gotten this one because and the peaks are all anyway, I was passing it around during the total eclipse, and I gave it to one of my friends that was there, and he had just learned how to exchange the energy through your body, like the ring that you do through one hand to the next, and then it goes around and comes back to the other hand thing. And he was doing that for a little while, and I didn't know what he was doing, but he told me later on. Anyway, I looked over, and he was holding it, and a poof of smoke, bright white smoke, was coming
Oh.
out of his hands where he was holding it. And I knew that meant he was done. So I was like, "Are you done?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he handed it to me, and it was then now it's like smoky inside.
Wow. That's an
It's
incredible
the
story.
most Isn't
That's
that
wild.
neat?
That is neat.
I've
Well, I mean, then that
never
proves
heard
they
that.
hold memory, they hold record, and they hold energy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a very
Yeah.
cool story.
I
That's
know. I love it. And it's the reason I wanted to bring it up was just what you said, is that you had mentioned it earlier before, and I feel like this is a really useful, good message to bring to kind of like end on, or at least kind of keep in everyone's minds, is that you get to decide what your crystal is doing for you too. Like all we need to do is ask it, and asking it by choosing it. Choosing to do with it. Like you said, like that particular crystal, I wouldn't have connected it to the knees,
Oh,
For
I
me, I
mean,
don't
and that
know.
was just, and it might not. I'm just saying it depends on the individual. Like maybe this
Right.
one would, right? And normally we say blue is for the throat chakra. Well, in this case, if it was intuitive and right for that person, well, it could be for this other part, right? That was just the point. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure it doesn't get like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
No, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm getting at is that because typically I'll do the same thing. Like I color code. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
okay, what chakra am I looking for? Lapis lazuli. I had a lapis lazuli tree. You know how they get the copper and they make a tree out of all the little
Yeah, I
pebbles.
can't remember to
Yeah.
see.
And I put it in an area that's so pretty.
That's lapis
Um,
lazuli.
that people, a particular individual used to come around and would just waste my time with long tales of distruth. I'll
Mm.
say it that way, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I happened to find this, beautiful tree at a local, fair we were having, and as soon as I put that up, it stopped. That person could not or didn't choose to, because of the contrary energy, speak lies in its presence. And it
Mm.
was so like, wow, because I'd heard about that. It was the truth teller. It's the throat chakra, the truth teller. But not always is this going to occur. It's my intention too. That was why I put it there. That was my intention. And so letting the crystal know what you want from it, just like you do your water. Thank you, water, for cleansing me, for giving me what I need, blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blanks, then drink it, because then you're telling it what it is that you need it to do.
Yeah, you're putting the intention. That's what they call actually, I just lost it. Yeah, I mean, it is. You can, program, right? They call it programming your crystal. So there are many ways to do that too. So there isn't just one. Like you said, you can just say, hey, this is the intent. If I'm wearing you, can you, let's,
Right.
keep it clear and truth and highest, whatever. But there are ways to actually, yeah, do that programming of it. Can we work that this is the intention whenever I pick you up, this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
fun to look around. There's many ways to do it.
And a lot of times we don't even, I've found what has happened for me is I've not done it on purpose at first. I was just like, well, I'm getting this because I'm doing this. Like I'm getting this one because I'm doing this. And after a while, it's like, this is what we do. Like it's taught.
Because they
Yeah,
said.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a great guide. It's a great guide to go by because the chakras with the alignment with the colors and all of that, it's like color therapy. Yeah, I think you talked about in the Guardian show, he was joking about wearing black. Yeah, I wore black for a couple decades and then I started slowly mixing it up, but I'm going to have a black t-shirt. Yeah. But it's like color therapy. You might be happier if you're wearing pink or green and you wear dark. Not that it brings you down, but it just maybe levels you out. Or you wear yellow, that's clearly a different vibe than if you wear orange or brown, right? So there is something to color therapy, and that's the same thing with the stones, can be.
Yes.
But then again, you could say to me, hey, take this I'm just trying to think of another one we haven't talked about. I keep going to the same ones. But yeah, take this lepidolite, or charoite. Those are purples. And yeah, those are going to be great. Put it near your head. You're going to feel, beautiful. And maybe I do. But maybe I'm like, oh, thanks. These are gorgeous. But wow, they feel really good right here. Or they feel really good on my stomach. That's another thing. Just let your hand take you where, with it. Where does it want to go?
Yeah.
Or if it's just in your pocket, or I carry one in a messenger bag. And it's not just for us what they're doing. You may pick one up and go, yeah, I don't know. Like this is African bloodstone. Okay, African bloodstone, you're not going to see it too well. It's like a dark green, it's got grays, and then it's got like reds in it.
Mhm.
Normally, just kind of not resonant with it. However, there is the reason why I kind of wanted to have it around. And sometimes I'll throw, just like you go out, about your business for a day, I just say, okay, what color shirt do I want to throw on? Well, at the same time, I could be like, hey, what crystal wants to come with me today in my bag? And I'll just carry it. There'll be some that I just keep in there forever. They're at the bottom. I kind of forget they're there, but they do certain things. And then I'll be like, hey, anybody want to come with me? And then I'll kind of have an intuitive hit like, oh yeah, just grab that Amazonite or just grab this, throw it in there. Well, it could be for me, but it also could be as I walked through that place or in public, that's what other people needed to feel that energy. Or I did have a thing happen spontaneously in public where this girl was kind of having, just couldn't cope with life, I'll just say. And I had some essential oils in my bag, which by the way, yeah, you can infuse essential oils with your
Yeah.
crystals. And so I just intuitively broke out the crystal. I had her hold it in her hand, and I had her look and to try to distract her and get out of her state. Hey, I have these 3 different crystals. Which one you want to hold for a bit? And then they picked one. So already we're getting them out of that whatever they were in, and then they're
Yeah.
holding it, and then that's already a companion. And I'm putting my intention to help them. And then you get the crystals. I mean the oil, and then, which one? I think I had like 3 different little vials of rollerball ones, like which smells good to you. And I took the caps off, and then you get the senses already working and healing there. And then in the meantime, they're out of their state. Well, that little crystal buddy was a great first tool because, again, it's like some people feel comforted by a warm, heavy blanket, when it's cold or whatever. And this is like a comforting thing to hold. Again, a companion, right? So they're, for us or for others, unbeknownst to us, right? Sometimes.
Right.
Mhm.
That's great. Thank you very much. We could, again, Varleigh had just made a very comprehensive video on her
No
channel
review. Yeah.
regarding this. It's really cool. I have only had the time so far to watch half of it, like an hour of it. Which I've found myself taking notes, and there's just so much information in
And
this,
look
and
at
so
and each of our journeys, like if anybody does watch it, yeah, feel free to put in the comments your experiences, or if they don't come through, email, or just hang on to it, take notes, because yeah, maybe you'll be talking about it because there's so many nuances to these things, and as many as there are of us and our experiences, there are going to be some new little insights or how people have used things,
right,
that are good.
exactly. This is answering
Yeah.
Sherry's question.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
that just if you do, I don't know, this is useful to know. If you do play with copper wire, I have found that counterclockwise winding, twisting is the most in alignment. If I do it the other way, then it just doesn't feel like it's as high frequency. But what they do is they take the copper wire and they kind of and they wire it together, and then it comes out as a tree, and then on the tips of the tree they'll put stones. That's what I meant by the crystal tree. Like, wouldn't that be cool if a tree like really grew stones like that every year, every season you'll have new crystals pop? It's kind of like that if you go to the places where they come naturally. But I really enjoyed this conversation. If anyone wants to
Thank you.
connect and to like have, I know you're offering. Are you offering sessions? Are you offering what is it that you are?
Well, I have 3 main categories, and it's just, spiritual guidance, the usuals. I connect in kind of more in a collective sense. It's not going to be, oh, this relationship here is going this way, what's going on, or this kind of that. It's going to be slightly different. But I would say, I have got spiritual guidance, many forms of that, including, guided meditations, things of that nature. Also healing sessions to hands-on heal, well, hovering hands, is how I work with the energies coming through, with or without crystals. And that would be something more local, though. That would be in the greater Miami area. And there can be exceptions to travel out further. That would just be by special arrangement. And then also teaching, I can teach any number of things, whether it's about crystals or, children's groups, also events, it goes on and on. So I just put my email there for now because it really would just be kind of an individual thing. You'll know if there's something I can offer, and I can even teach things of how to identify craft in the sky, for goodness sakes. There's like any number of things. But otherwise, yeah, also just, maybe more of this crowd would be, spiritual guidance, but we can do anything. So it would just be to reach out by email. And then I'd also just see what, situations everyone's in, and where we work out a nice, arrangement and make it happen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that email address is right here on the
Thank you.
screen, lavender@panther@gmail.com. Lavender spelled correctly this time. If you saw it earlier, I was spelling it incorrectly.
I barely saw it. I'm like, I don't
Multitasking.
know.
I pay careful attention to be sure I'm listening to my guests, and I'm also engaging in the comments. So I'm not always going to be perfect, but that's
I don't
important to
know how
be
you do
sure.
it. I'm just trying to have the conversation. Meanwhile, I say, "Oh wow, you were able to respond." I don't know. That's good.
I'm all over the place. It's
That's
practice,
great.
though. I come from a family of 10 kids, and I'm one of the oldest
Oh, there
kids,
you go.
so
Oh my
that's nice.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm the
Well, it'd
fourth.
be fun too, for your community too later in your discussions to see what experiences they have and which ones they favor. You know, which crystals are called to them and for what reasons. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
It is. It's really cool. I mean, I know we love them. My daughter's always known what different crystals do. She hasn't
That's
had
great.
any formal experience. It's just, and then I'll look it up and she's right, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, since she was like 3, but I still don't know. I like them and they come to me. I'm drawn to them and then they disappear, you know, and so and I know that they are the jumping stones. They've jumped to someone else who is in a greater need. Like our journey is done,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think they know like you're covered. Like she's covered. Let's just move on. I mean, your name is higher vibrations. They don't have to stay for long.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everyone in
No,
the
thank
audience,
you.
everyone who's
Thank
listening
you,
later
everybody.
on. And thank you so much, Farley. This was a really fun conversation. I had fun through the
Well,
entire
and
thing.
I have to say, and there's so many other ways to go through all of this, but I have to let everybody know in fairness, I only did the crystal talk because in my session with Mila not long ago, it came up to do it. So it was like undeniable. So that came through our session. Otherwise, maybe it would have come up, but would have probably been decades down the road. So
Right.
thank you and team, whoever we were connecting into, we know. But thank you. And yeah, pleasure. And thank you, everybody. I didn't get to follow the chat like Mela is the master multitasker, but thank you, everybody. Yeah, for your comments. I'll go back and read them. So thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions afterward, watching on replay, um, you can connect through either comments in the viewing of this video or through Telegram later on. And I will find a way to maybe you can answer in through me if someone can
Well,
find you.
and
There's
you know what we didn't touch on, which was not meant to come up for this, but we didn't even touch the world of Lemurian crystal, Lemuria,
I know,
and
dude. That's
Atlantis.
what I thought we were gonna
And
do,
Atlantis and
actually.
the crystals. So that's a fun one too for any of you out there who have an affinity toward Atlantis or Lemuria. There'd be some interesting things coming through, I think, from everybody about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure if you are in up for it down the road, we'll probably want to do a part 2 anyway.
Yeah,
So
those would be like original crystals.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the OG. That's actually why I live where I do, is
Oh,
because of my lifetime in Lemuria and having to do with crystals. That's a whole story.
nice.
But
Yeah, that's another time, but
yep,
man,
another time.
beautiful.
I have to use the
Beautiful.
bathroom. I have to
Yeah,
pee.
okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Know that
everybody.
you're not alone. There's a higher exchange of energy happening. The sun is going crazy. The Schumann's off the charts. We're supposed to have a geomagnetic storm coming in the next little while. So do what you can to ground. If you can't go outside and put your bare feet on the ground, perhaps pull up a tiger's eye or whatever it is that helps you to ground. You know, some people have reminded me that the root vegetables are really useful, and I agree as long as this is not done in excess. So things like carrots, turnips. We got potatoes of all kind, ginger. You've got like sweet potato, regular potato, that kind of thing. Keep those things do help, but again, it's not going to help if we're bloated and over full of food,
And like you
either.
mentioned, the dandelion tea, or you do the
Yeah.
coffee, but I like the dandelion tea, and there's also licorice root tea. Yeah, the root teas are good too, I find. Yeah.
Roots, all the
Mhm.
roots. Yeah.
Roots.
I'm rooting for the roots. I love you all. Thank you again for joining us for
Thanks.
this. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Aho blessings.